Greetings, Barcadians, and welcome to another edition of the BA Gaming News Show with your hosts today, me Tabs, and my good friend Rich. Say hello, Rich.
Hi.
So as you know, Barcadians, every Friday at 5 PM, don't forget to ring that bell for notifications and tune in UK time anyway at 5 PM. So we thought it was a bit of a slow news week this week, and then today we've had a couple of bits and pieces drop out of the ether, and we've scrambled quickly to try and get some coverage in the news for you today. So at least it spiced things up a little bit for us. But before we get into the thick of it, let's kick off as we always do, what we've mostly been playing this week. So Rich, hit me. What have you been playing this week, my friend?
So following the news last week, went straight to my Switch and downloaded Pikmin 3 Deluxe and completed that pretty much that evening. I think it's roughly about an hour if anyone's interested. Gives you a really good, if no one's ever played Pikmin, I think it gives you a real good idea about the game, and I really enjoyed it. It actually really hyped me to get the full game. I'd like to go back on the demo, but I feel like I don't want to spoil the main game and get sort of burnt out. So I played a bit of that, and then more farming on Monster Hunter together with you, Tabs. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say on Pikmin 3, I think you kind of wanted to perfect the demo, didn't you? If that's the right word. So you get everything you could in it, so you can carry that save over to the main game.
Well, this is it. So the save from the demo can be used in the main game, and I did think, well, should I go back and perfect the demo so don't lose anybody, collect as much as I possibly can, and get as many Pikmin as I can, and then use that to go into the game? Or do I just restart the game again from scratch when I get it? So I'm not sure what to do on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I mean, I think there's going to be a ton of replayability anyway in the game, isn't there? The fact that we can play it cooperatively on the story mode, locally at least, and we've got all these side missions, or whatever they're called, I forget now. So yeah, exciting. As you alluded there, Monster Hunter, we have both been playing it a little bit this week. Yeah, we've got a little bit left to do, haven't we? But I kind of feel like we're getting to the end of it. Almost at this point, I think we could put it down if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, you would say we're in end game things now, aren't we? Like getting the best weapons, getting the best armour, like killing sort of hidden monsters now, I would say almost. We've sort of done the main bulk of the entire game, so... But it is fun. The grinding element of it is really fun to play, although the last few times we've been on a monster which I'm not that fond of, so it's not been as enjoyable, but, you know.
Yeah, I love it. I'm addicted to like really getting the best loadout possible, you know, and even these little incremental games, messing about and tweaking it, and then you go again on the next monster, and suddenly you feel like you're almost God, you know, smashing these monsters to pieces. So yeah, it's I love the gameplay loop, but you know, I think at some point we need to draw a line under it, because I've still got Mario 3D All-Stars to get back to, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Whoa,
and guess what, Rich?
Whoa. If we're going to play any games anytime soon, it's going to be Ghost of Tsushima.
I was about to say, yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, little news drop for you there, Barcadians. Tomorrow or today, when you see this video live, we're going to see the multiplayer. Free multiplayer upgrade is launching, we think, don't we, Rich?
Yeah,
right?
16th, yeah, so I'm guessing probably midnight, since it's a digital, you know, it's basically an update for the game, so yeah, I can't wait to play that. I'm guessing we may have a blast on it tomorrow evening, Taps.
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, I'm going to be guided by... I'm really hoping it's amazing, and I'm sure it will be. But, you know, we'll just kind of give it a feel. If it feels good, you know, we'll carry on playing it. And maybe that's the changing of the hands with Monster Hunter, but we'll soon see.
Absolutely.
Anyway, enough of all that nonsense. Let's get into the news before we run out of time. So first topic today is SpiderMan Miles Morales details. So this mostly comes from an article in IGN. And they've said, in this month's cover story, Game Informer got an extensive preview of the opening hours for Spider-Man Miles Morales. Miles isn't just a carbon copy of Peter Parker's Spider-Man. He has unique abilities such as the Venom Strike, which can be performed by holding down the L1 and the attack button. And he also the game gives players the option to engage with encounters via stealth, because Miles has a temporary camouflage that lets him turn partially invisible, which I think we have seen in some of the gameplay reels, which I really like that, because in the first game it was very much, if you got busted outside of your stealthing, that was it. You know, it had all gone to shit essentially, and you had to just fight your way out through the rest of it. Whereas this obviously gives you a, you know, if you do get busted, you can quickly stealth, find a position, and then resume that that style of gameplay. So I like that. In terms of more technical details, there's going to be two modes. So the first mode is going to be 4K 60 frames per second performance mode, and 4K, the second mode is a 4K 30 frames per second fidelity mode. And the key difference is fidelity mode obviously is 30 frames per second, but it offers ray tracing and other visual effects that won't be available in the performance mode. And of course load times have also been eliminated. So yeah, we'll just finish this off and then we'll come back to our thoughts, Rich. As for bosses, so far Insomniac has shown off Miles facing off against Rhino, the Tinkerer, and Roxxon Corporation. Insomniac says that there are more villains that will appear, but not quite as many as the ones that Peter Parker faced. Obviously, we think this is going to be a smaller experience. One really cool thing, they have showed off various unlockable suits. One of them, which is a cat suit, so named because Miles carries an attacking cat in his backpack. And I've seen a little clip of this. Like when you're doing finishes, this little kitty jumps out and like paws the enemy. It's ridiculously cute and also just kind of ridiculously cool. So yeah, I'm really liking the look of this. What I will say, Rich, for me, from this little kind of hands-on, these updates, it's the performance mode which concerns me a little bit, because I'm desperate to play this in 4K 60 frames per second. I think the fluidity on this game should be king and will really, you know, make that experience so much better. The problem is I'm going to be missing out on ray tracing and other visual effects, which, what do we think, shadows and things like that, better resolution shadows, whatnot, which is a bit of a blow to me, to be honest. I want that top performance with the 60 frames per second, but you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Well, I do think it's interesting. Now, we've spoken at length a number of times while discussing future games, both on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, that we thought we would see multiple game modes, like performance and visual modes. We know that would probably be a thing, all but confirmed with this, well, it is confirmed for this game. I think the interesting thing is that, I don't know, it's been touted to time and time again that 4K 120, that's the thing, that's where we're aiming for. So you would think a game that they have specifically gone out and said about how good it runs on their system, which is what they've said about Spider-Man, they used it a lot when they were talking about the SSD. It's surprising that the performance mode isn't, or the pretty mode, so to speak, isn't 4K 60, especially given the fact it's actually a PS4 game that's been upgraded. I find this very odd. I
was going to say, mate, paradoxically though, that might be something to do with it, because, you know, the targeted hardware was cross-gen, and therefore in a sense they've not been able to build it from the ground up on the PS5 and also optimize it specifically for that. So maybe that's something to do with it, but I'm completely with you. I feel it's a real shame that, you know, they can't punch for the fidelity mode, or even give us another mode that's, say, 1440p 60 frames per second with ray tracing and these other visual effects. That would be the sweet spot for me personally.
I think it's also, bearing in mind, we think, as we understand it, this is a very short game. Well, we're thinking like maybe 10 hours, aren't we, Tabs? If we're thinking this is really short. And I think it's disappointing that even, you know, that what you need things to buff it out. Like what's like, Tabs, you've played the original game on the PS4 and completed it. You've gone for just this edition. It seems a shame that you're going to have like a compromised playthrough that's going to be really short anyway. I'm disappointed on this, I have to say. I am disappointed, but I am excited to play this game. I'm just disappointed by these modes.
Yeah, this is it. Again, a third mode for me that kind of was a bridge between the two. Would have been a nice way to cover all bases, but you know, technology, it's hard to tame, and I'm grateful just to play the game and have the experience on the PS5 at launch.
Absolutely.
You know, to put it in perspective. But Rich, take us away, topic 2.
So, Mario Kart Live home circuit is out this week, and we thought it might be nice just to do a review roundup. I'll just put it out there right now. I was someone who was very keen on this product. I thought it looked very, very good, and I was all in on it until I saw the price. and then I wasn't so in on it. So this retails at £100. That's for the game, and I think it's one cart. I think there is a deal if you buy 2 carts. I think you can get, it's not like £200. I think it's slightly less. But needless to say, I didn't think it worthied, or I could get enough time out of it to justify £100 basically. But let's see what people have said about it. So it currently stands at 72 on Metacritic, and let's hear what people had to say about it. So Forbes gave it an 80. Minor setbacks aside, this is a very fun Mario Kart game in its own right. Not quite the feature-rich experience of Mario Kart 8 is, but a very fun, very clever game nonetheless. It's delightful and will certainly be fun for all ages, and a great party game for whenever you feel comfortable having parties again.
I'll do the next one for you, Rich.
Go for it.
Game Informer, they gave it 75. Despite its shortcomings, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit still brings hours of fun. While firing up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is more convenient and fully featured, Mario Kart Live's unique take on the series is worth checking out for those looking for exciting twists on a well-worn concept.
And IGN gave it a 70. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit's mixed reality novelty excels when you have the space and motivation to make your courses flourish. But occasionally tech hiccups and clogged wheels are hazards just as dangerous as any blue shell. That said, when I took the time to really lean into the creative challenge building a track presented with me, I was often rewarded by having a blast racing on it. Some familiar mechanics get lost in the translation to AR, but this is still an enjoyable Mario Kart game no matter what roadway I made. So it's interesting there. I would say mixed reviews. I mean, I would say £100 is a lot of money to spend on a 7 out of 10 to game, especially if you're not going to play it a great deal and you don't have the space to play it. And I think what IGN are alluding to here is, you know, one of the probably the most fun mechanics I would say in Mario Kart, such as Mario Kart 8, is the drifting. That's like one of the most fun things you do in it, because it's like a skill area of the game, and that isn't in this. I don't believe you can drift the karts.
I think it might be in a form, mate, but I don't know exactly what that looks like. I'm sure I heard something on it, but yeah, it's certainly not going to be as rich and as deep as the as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think for me, mate, this seems to be reserved for perhaps, you know, if you've got a few kids in your family who are interested in playing it, and this is going to be like their big present at Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, in my time, you know, Mr. Frosty was like a big present for me and my sister one year. Google that if you've never heard of it, Barcadians. And I think this is going to be it. You know, this is going to be your big shared present that's exciting, and the novelty's certainly there for kids. If this had been released in our day, Rich, I would have been loving this.
Oh yeah, I think it's a horses for courses. I guess I think there's an audience and a time and a place where this would be amazing, but at £100. How long will this be amazing for? I personally think, you know, you're going to get a few playthroughs with it, and then you're going to think, actually, shall I just put Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch? That's my concern.
It's not really for the hardcore crowd, is it? No. I wouldn't say. So yeah.
But I have to say, a very cool, very, very cool, like augmented reality IP that Nintendo have come up with, and I applaud them for that. So let's hope it sells well.
Saluting right now, Rich, because yeah, absolutely, we should always salute innovation, and yeah, it's fantastic to see ideas like this come into being. I don't want to see a world where it's all just sequels and, you know, boring
and
identical concepts.
Interestingly, on the line of innovation, take us on to our next story.
So yeah, PlayStation 5 UI. This is one of those topics we were scrambling to cover for you today, Barcadian. So it exists just in bullet points that I've ripped straight from Eurogamer Ridge Ledbetter's write-up, which was very excitable, I would say. I'm looking forward to the Digital Foundry video because he sounds very excited. So here we go, bullet points. There's going to be voice dictation support for writing messages. Hallelujah, because it's a nightmare trying to type in messages on a PS controller. You can screen share with friends and pin their gameplay to your screen when playing concurrently at the same time. Amazing. I mean, Rich, during lockdown, we've been trying to figure out ways to play together and share our gameplay, and this sounds like it's just integrated. the whole presentation of the UI renders at a native 4K and even supports native HDR out of the box. The PlayStation Store app is now fully integrated into the system, meaning no delay when you access them, and I think that also goes for other apps as well. There's picture-in-picture video guides, or at least not for all games. I think it's to do with developers and publishers allowing access to the metadata of their games to enable, the links to these sourced guides. But again, if it works, if it gets, if it gets the uptake I think it will hopefully deserve, it could be just absolutely transformative for us who, usually scrambling on Google or, boot up your laptop trying to desperately find a guide. Well, it's literally integrated into the console experience, the gameplay experience. What else? Activity cards take the form of curated entry points into the game, authored by the developer, ready to wear challenges that get you straight into the action with specific objectives highlighted. And furthermore, cards, specifically as well, these activity cards are publisher and developer driven, as metadata is used to link to outside sources. I've made a little note here myself. This could be groundbreaking for challenge-based games that thrive on online leaderboards and competitive camaraderie. So essentially, these are again, driven by publishers if they allow them, little quick entry points into the game, and it could be partway through the game. As I say, it could be specific challenges that you can literally jump straight into. You don't necessarily have to play the game in the normal, linear fashion from start to finish, which I think is just a really interesting idea. I don't think I've fully digested what that could mean, but certainly it sounds exciting, and I think if it's utilised, especially for games, Rich, I'm thinking more from your perspective, driving games.
Now, one takeaway I took from the examples that were given in this video that dropped earlier on today, was the fact that they were showing areas that you've been on a game but not completed specific things that you needed to do in that area. For instance, one of the ones shown was collecting an item, and I thought that was really interesting. So it's giving you sort of the license to give more longevity to the game, to get your completion rate higher in essence, because it's going, you forgot to do this is the thing, we can take you straight there, it'll take you 10 minutes. That's a really, really cool idea. I really like that, and especially if it's going to keep people more engaged in games.
Certainly then, yeah, if you're a big platinumer, if that's the right descriptive word, then yeah, that could really make life easy, couldn't it? You've got a list of things you need to tick off to get that platinum trophy. Maybe there's something in the game that gives you a helping hand with that. So, and then obviously the guides on top of that. I mean, it's just good quality of life features generally, isn't it?
Something else I thought was very, very interesting. So they took a snapshot from a game while playing online with their friends. They sent it to a friend, and they basically suggested that if you've taken a screenshot from a game which may contain, say, spoilers or something that they haven't seen in the game that they're playing, they're not currently up to that point, it will warn the player possible spoilers ahead with the content that's been sent to you. And I just think that's incredible. The technology that's going on, the algorithms that's going on with all these things is fantastic. My only concern about all of that is it's only going to work if developers uptake it. It's a very singular thing to the PlayStation 5. We've not heard of a similar thing going on the Xbox Series X, and if developers don't pick that up and run with it, then how much is it going to be utilised outside of Sony's umbrella of game studios that are designing games for the PlayStation. So I don't know, we'll see how that goes.
This is it, could be reserved to the halls of novelty, because it's all being implied, the work upon the developers, and if it's not really going to earn them any more money or it's offer any more value, are they really going to want to put that resource into developing this areas? But it's aspirational, we'll cross our fingers, it's exciting. For those more technically minded, Rich, I was just going to say, we haven't actually been told by Sony exactly what resources allocated to the UI. It's currently unknown. However, they did seem to say that it's along the same lines as the PS4. So you look at all these features and you think, blimey, that must be taking up loads of system, GPU, CPU, headroom. But in fact, apparently it's not. So again, even more clever that they've managed to sort that out. Go on, Rich, finish off your thought.
I was just going to say, I wonder whether this is linked to the fact that we have heard some rumours here and there that developers are struggling with the way they need to develop for the PlayStation 5 now. I wonder whether the way that these cards and stuff have been done have got to be put into the game in certain areas, and that makes it slightly more challenging to develop it because of the way it needs to be done. I don't know, just my musings. Let's move on.
Right then, yeah. So I think, Rich, should we skip to everything else, and I can just kind of box this next topic up in everything else?
Go for it, mate.
So I'll start with this. I don't have everything else in front of me, Rich, so I'm going to hand over the rest to you, and I'll comment as we go. So the last little bit was Ken Levine's next game. Is it on the horizon? So essentially, Ghost Story Games, Ken Levine's kind of next company post Bioshock. We've learned from a few job ads essentially that it looks like their game might be in the later stages of production, and it seems to be an immersive sim, sci-fi-esque with FPS and RPG elements. So you would say that's not too far away from, Bioshock. Kind of sci-fi, FPS elements and RPG elements, certainly. So interesting. Anyway, what's the next on there, Rich?
So I think you've seen this, haven't you, Tabs? A Cyberpunk Night City Wire sort of discussion and playthrough has gone online today, all about vehicles, I believe, Tabs, and you've got some stuff to tell us about that.
Yeah, very briefly, really gutted for you, mate, because I know you're big into your vehicles, but you probably won't play this game because you don't get on that well with FPS games. But yeah, it looks really in-depth, actually. They've put a lot of time into modelling vehicles, all sorts of different classes, including trucks and supercars, armoured vehicles. They've really gone to town with the kind of detail inside the cars, the sounds of the engines. And what I really liked about it was the physics and the sense of gravity in the car handling seemed to be very much akin to like GTA, which I always think has made that franchise especially noteworthy. I really appreciate that, the fun element that those physics bring to those games. Apart from that, we saw some stuff about Keanu Reeves' motorcycle company and how they're collaborating with Cyberpunk to have like an in-game bike that's based on one that they make. They did go into some other bits and pieces about like styles of Night City, and I think it was just a lot to do with the world building. I switched off a little bit then because I was preparing for this, so excuse me, Barcadian stuff, if I've missed anything there, let us know in the comments. And I think that's probably about it, Rich. Back over to you.
So, also this week, Sony apparently trademarked PS6, PS7 and PS8. They're obviously wishful thinking that we're going to see more home consoles after the PS5, which I know me and Tabs are very sceptical of whether we'll see any home consoles after, in the current guise that they are after the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Moving on, GTA 6 map apparently leaks again. I think a few years ago on 4chan, a sort of rustic looking map for this leaked, but I believe this one almost confirms a Project America's rumour from a few years ago, but obviously we have to take all these things with a pinch of salt because we don't know anything about them. But tell us a little bit about Project America's rumour, Tabs, from a few years ago.
Yeah, I just had a very quick sweep over an article that you pointed me out to before the news, and essentially it basically seems to add credence to this rumour that we're going to be revisiting Miami, and therefore it might be a return to, Vice City, or it certainly have Vice City vibes, which, if it's true, fantastic. I love Vice City. It has to be one of the favourite games in the GTA series, and it was all that style that it exuded, and the soundtrack, which just made it so magical.
Well, I think the potential rumours are that it will be in the sort of 70s to mid 80s. That will be the time frame of the game, and the Vice City sort of map will be part and parcel of a bigger map. So interesting. I don't know. Who knows whether this is true?
They have commented in recent times about how difficult it is to make a present-day GTA game because of the times we live in, and it's not the easiest thing to, like satire, because they always like to have that comedic vibe, don't they, where they're kind of social commentary, but also taking the piss a little bit as well. So they have said that it was going to be difficult in these times because they're almost so ridiculous themselves that they can't be kind of mocked in the same way. So revisiting a past period like the 70s or 80s, makes sense. It gives them, some more license to revisit the past in that way and not have the problem as we've just discussed. So who knows? I hope so. Let's just see some at GTA 6 at this stage, though, Rich? Absolutely. It feels like it has been years, hasn't it? Blimey.
Moving on, Monster Hunter movie. I know we all saw the recent trailer, which seemed very strange given the fact everyone had got army uniforms and assault rifles. But apparently director Paul W. Anderson has said that 85% of the movie takes place in the fantasy world, so people should not worry about the film's setting.
Should come as great relief to fans out there, because yeah, certainly I did the same thing. You saw a guy with an assault rifle or whatever, and you just think, oh no, they've absolutely, not lived up to this franchise at all, and it's just going to be some, macho romp. But no, seemingly there's going to be some lore in there from Monster Hunter, so fantastic.
Absolutely. Moving on, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has apparently got hands-on with people. It seems like it could actually be one to watch. I was worried about this, but Mitchell Saltzman from, is it IGN Tabs?
Yes.
Had broadly positive things to say after his 6 hours hands-on, even though there were some bugs and combat issues, it was still in there. And finally, on this week's Everything Else, someone has managed to beat Ocarina of Time's King, is it Dodongo?
Dodongo?
Yeah, using an actual ocarina. So the ocarina peripheral you could get, he mapped, as I understand it, the sounds, I guess, to the button configuration of the controller and was able to actually defeat the boss with this. Crazy thing, and I haven't seen this. I've only read the article about it. So anyone wishing to see that, get on there and get it watched.
Very fun game for me. So just for the little nostalgia binge, I'll be seeking that one out. But creative gamers, what the lengths they'll go to set a world record, I suppose, as well. Maybe we can do something like that on the channel, Rich.
Absolutely.
But yes. Thank you, Barcadians, for joining us again for another edition of the BA News Show. As always, smash the like button. Please pepper the comments with your thoughts. It really helps us to crunch into this troubling YouTube algorithm, gets our name out there. Also, share the video link on, social media sites. Do your best if you can to spread Binary Arcadia out there in the ether. And yeah, I think that's probably about it. Everything we've got time for today. We look forward to seeing you next week, Friday at 5 PM UK time. Rich, I think that's it. Another one for the archives.
Stamped and completed.